Yep, time to get our other alternator working. So we got the new alternator rebuilt, but don't have it installed yet, and we've got like 4 or 5 days of cloudy weather coming, which means we're gonna run out of power real soon if we don't have backup power. So we need our power source hooked up. So got new belts for this alternator. So you can see this one's wearing out. So time to change it before it just breaks, and then we're left stranded again. And new belts to put the other alternator back here, so the Balmer's going in here. Just had to wait to get the parts to install it, but I still don't have this bracket. Nobody has this special round bracket for setting the tension of the alternator. So since we're not using our engine-driven refrigeration system anymore, I'm going to take the one off here. It has the same bracket right there, but even in a heavier duty version. So I'm going to rob that one from the refrigeration compressor and get our alternator working. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
You just close the eyes very quick. DJ Cheeky. DJ Cheeky. DJ Cheeky.
Any issues on mobile?
My lovely girl. My lovely girl. My lovely girl.
So a pretty typical day starting out on Sophisticated Lady. We got the crew working on some new graphics and banners for our social media channels. A little bit of engine maintenance going on while we're waiting on the rain to stop. And of course Tiki watching over everyone with her eagle eye, making sure everything's done proper.
Do you remember you have to sign in space for like check your email. But then again, it won't tell you what you changed it to. It'll just be a password change request. Okay. Still turning. It feels tight, but
It's getting better. Alright, we got good tension.
shall I carry on until I can literally do it no more?
No, as long as it feels all check the tension out there, it seems like it should be good. Everything's mounted, tightened up and tensioned. Oh, I got a big tan.
Wow.
We're getting there. Soon we will know if it works. And we're still here and anchored in front of the city of St Pierre in Martinique, which of course has us right at the foot of the volcano, Mount Pelée, the one that completely destroyed the city just 100 years ago. And at this point, we're pretty much just waiting for the rain to stop. We've had several days of rain and cloudy weather, so it hasn't been conducive to going ashore, so we've just been getting some stuff done around the boat. But the forecast has been promising better weather for the next day or two coming up, so we're making some plans to go ashore and do a little exploring.
Really?
So as you can likely tell by now, I'm quite intrigued with the volcanoes in our area and the effect that they had in creating and constantly changing the face of the Caribbean. But this Mount Pelée here in Martinique is by far the most fascinating and captivating story of all the ones here in the Caribbean. At the turn of the 20th century, the town of St Pierre was known as the Paris of the Caribbean. Situated at the north end of Martinique and on the lee side, it had a very popular bay always full of ships there to fill up with sugar and rum to take back overseas to France. The only problem with St Pierre, of course, being that it was laid right at the foot of a massive volcano. Like most of the Caribbean islands, Martinique was formed by volcanoes. It's part of an active arc that traces the boundary where the oceanic crust of the North American plate pushes below the Caribbean plate, forming a perforated barrier of islands that separate the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Mount Pelée has a 5,000-year track record of activity, with the most recent rumblings being back in 1792 and 1851. With neither of those producing any significant damage, she fell dormant for almost half a century, but when she roared back to life in 1902, Mount Pelée was ready to be heard. In late April and early May of 1902, Mount Pelée let off quite a few warning shots that left the city covered in ash, accompanied by mudslides and even reports of boiling rivers. Yet the people of the town still did not regard it as a threat, and with the officials telling them everything was fine and just hang tight, that's what most did. It seems the only things that heeded the warning signs of the mountain were the wildlife. Reports indicated that a plague of insects and snakes had slithered their way down the mountain and invaded the city. Among them were gigantic centipedes and 2-meter-long vipers, which claimed the lives of hundreds of livestock and about 50 people. Soldiers in the city started shooting them in an attempt to protect the population, which of course turned out to be a very futile effort. On May 6, blue flames at the top of the mountain indicated the arrival of magma and a dome was overflowing the rim of the volcano. On May 7, a volcano on the neighboring island of St. Vincent exploded, killing 1,500 people. The authorities still, however, insisted there was nothing to fear. While very little is known about the actual events of May 8th, one thing is for certain. An entire town was destroyed in a matter of minutes and 30,000 people were literally incinerated and laid to rest right where they stood. The only real survivor accounts came from people who were working far away in the fields and others that were crew on some of the ships that were outside the harbor. They reported seeing a flash more dazzling than lightning and a cloud formed at the summit of Mount Pelée that literally fell on St Pierre with such force that it was impossible for anyone to escape. Even the ships that were anchored in the harbor were instantly set ablaze and lay smoldering and burning for hours until they finally sank, some of which are still in their final resting place at the bottom of the bay. If there is one positive thing to come out of it all, is that since this time, geologists have been able to study what happened, and now we have systems in place that allow us to recognize volcanic activity before something like this could happen again. So one thing for certain, we are living in a good time.
Very strong, very spicy, very
Hot.
very hot.
Hot spice. Yeah, who gets to try them? That's where she hands them to me and says, "Here, try this."
Parfumez-moi bien là. Je sais pas. J'ai dit combien mais c'était il y a les coussioles. Mais il y a beaucoup maintenant là, il y a beaucoup vacanciers. Ça même il y a beaucoup, je sais pas. Ils sont où? Mais j'ai
Ay, qué rico está.